So, when you start with the problem, the negative problem of a supposed sin that really upset God, of course, he set up the whole storyline, and then he gets offended because a sin committed on a certain day between one man and one woman really upset God and determined the entire course. And just to put this in context, I hope this doesn't seem absurd to you, but when I was in college, we believed there were billions of stars. And the human mind, we've now found from neuroscientists, cannot comprehend any notion of infinity or eternity. You cannot think infinity. You can't. You can't think eternity. So when the mystics talk about an infinite God of infinite mercy, we don't know how to process that. There's no way to process that. So we always whittle it down to a quid pro quo universe where we can understand things. And we did the same with the great storyline of the Scriptures. But supposedly a sin was committed, and God got upset and decided that we didn't belong in the garden. Now, when you start with that, Genesis 3 instead of Genesis 1, you dig a pit so deep when you start with any problem. And this is a statement about negative thinking, by the way, or problem-centered thinking, which most of us suffer from. If you want to get yourself engendered and going, just find a problem to solve. It works. It works very well, The vast majority of human beings do not know how to motivate themselves apart from something to fix, clean up, change. I start emptying waste baskets when I'm irritated. I do. Got to clean up this world somehow. I'm a 1 on the Enneagram, of course. Yeah. So I've got to make caricatures of these things because until you see that you're doing it too, nothing's going to change. And we're not going to get to a new mind that can deal with this suffering world. So everything doesn't belong when you start with the problem. It's already, how do we solve the problem? And then it took 4 centuries for good old Augustine, and I'm a fan of Augustine. I'm not here to put him down. But the greater light you have, the greater shadow you cast. That's true of Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, Paul, I'm sure myself. You have great big blind spots, and they just seem to go together. Paul called them the thorn in the flesh to keep you from getting too proud. Just one area where you can't get it. And so Augustine coins this horrible phrase, I have to say that, original sin. We got by for 3 centuries without that. But then the Catholic Church creates its entire theology of baptism, the initiation rite of Christianity, around the washing away of original sin. Do you old Catholics remember the Baltimore Catechism, the white milk bottles and the spotted milk bottles and the black milk bottles? You had to get your black to white. There's religion as separation from impurity. And the first major impurity was called original sin. Wasn't anything you did wrong yourself. It was done to you. It passed down, we were told, in very literalist, mechanical understanding, transactional understanding of human relationships, from father to child, mother to child. You didn't do it, but Adam and Eve did it, and you're still suffering for it. Well, it did create a corporate sense of humanity, that we're all in this bed of pain together. That's true. But the literalism of it, I give you that as another example of things that if you are a good Christian, okay, smarter people than I figure this out. I got to believe it. Doesn't make a bit of sense to me. And of course, we even rush to baptize your little babies, lest they die in original sin and not go to heaven. Then we Catholics who always had a reparative theology for everything, we'd have an answer, limbo. Yes, they go to limbo. I'm not trying to be unkind or unfair, but we've got to recognize that this is why most of your children and your grandchildren aren't here, just to bring it home, all right? They don't even give us a chance anymore. It's a credit to you old people. I can't see you, but I hope there's some young ones out there. But you know, my generation, I'm 74 in a few weeks, we still had this kind of, was it humility? Was it ignorance? I don't know. Was it a need to belong to the team? Perhaps, but we accepted that smarter people than we had figured this all out, and our job was to obey it. You know, my early years in the seminary, the highest virtue was never love. It was obedience. Apply that if that was not true in your family. Obedience was the highest virtue. It doesn't even come close to the gospel. It's still basically primitive religion. But that's where we were at that time. It's no one's fault. So what Matthew Fox did in his book is he created 2 columns, if you read the book: fallen redemption spirituality, creation spirituality. Right? Fallen redemption, create the problem. You all have an original sin, and voila, we clergy are just made to order to redeem you from the problem that we've created. Do you understand? It's called, any of you who are in Al-Anon, this is called codependency, you know. Oh God, we clergy are masters at it. Just keep everybody. So they need our essential ministrations. And forgive me, but you Protestants didn't reform us Catholics on that at all. You said you reformed us, but in so many ways, you repeated the same thing. The same thing. The same fall, redemption, and sermons were going to do what we thought sacraments were going to do. You know? Neither of us understood them in a transformational way. How do you change the mind and the heart of human beings to move them from exclusionary, imperialistic, violent, punitive worldviews to being nonviolent lovers of God and all creation? That's the task.